Hi, this is Walter Weesey with Yellowstone Country Fly Fishing and Parks Fly Shop, and with this is my weekly fly tying video for May 13th, 2020. And as I mentioned last week, I'm going to planning a warm water trip to eastern Montana here coming up. And last week I did a bass and pike fly, and so I figured this week I'd do a bluegill fly. This is the sort of thing that when I can find bluegill sitting on beds, particularly in weeds, where I don't want to actually retrieve things in front of them. Find a pot of bluegill, get as close to them as I can, and I'll actually stand on the hood of my drift boat, the front knee brace where there's kind of a bubble hood. I'll actually stand up there to give myself kind of a casting platform, and then just kind of let this fall, settle slowly in front of bedding bluegills, and they really like to eat it. Very simple fly, obviously, so I'll just go ahead and get started here. Alright, so my hook is going to be a size 12 1XL nymph hook. This one's a Kumoto, but whatever, 1XL, size 12, roughly, maybe size 10 hook you prefer. My thread is 6/0 yellow, and I'm either going to match the fly body or deliberately contrast it. For example, I'm tying a yellow one here. I could use a red thread, for example, if I was looking to contrast. Tie this fly in yellow, chartreuse, all your kind of favorite panfish colors. And then my eyes are going to be bead chain in black and size medium. And the way I'm cutting these is I'm going in with the base of my scissors here and just cutting the chain with the thick part of the scissors there, because you obviously don't want to cut wire with the tips of your good scissors. I'm going to go in here, and I do want to leave enough space behind the eye there that I can wrap the chenille over the eyes. And that part may or may not be necessary. Sometimes the fish like having that little ball chenille at the front. Sometimes it'd be okay to have bare thread. It's kind of up to you. But I'm going to go ahead and super glue those eyes in place. And then go back to the bend of the hook here. Now, panfish will eat just about everything. They'll try to eat your bass bugs and stuff, but to really get the good ones, and big hand-sized kind of bluegills is kind of hard to get here in Montana. I do actually usually use, there's a few trout flies I use, there's a few chironomids I like, but I usually use something like this. It's going to sort of settle right in front of the fish where I don't really have to retrieve it, and it is, kind of a dedicated panfish fly. Now, the body on this one's going to be a yellow tinsel with kind of gold flash in it. I'm sorry, a yellow chenille with gold flash in it. And then I'm just going to bring my thread back here behind the eyes. I'm not bringing that all the way to the front. And then just wrap that chenille forward. And, chartreuse is a good color, obviously, for panfish, and I should shut up here and tell you what I'm doing. The way I'm going to wrap this over the eyes is I'm not going to X-wrap this because I don't want a whole lot of bulk up there at the front. If I start doing X-wraps over those eyes, it's going to get too bulky. So what I'm going to do is just bring that straight up over the hook, and I believe I tied that off once. Yeah, I did. I made one turn of thread, 2 turns of thread there just to secure it a little bit. But I'm going to go forward over the eye once, and then cross, and then go back over the eye. And so what I did was I was going forward on my side of the hook there. In fact, I'm going to back up here, because this is a way I do it a lot on eyes, because it makes less bulk if I've got bead chain or dumbbell eyes. I'm going to go forward like this. I'm staying on one side of the hook, and then when I come back here, then I'll cross it back over. There's sort of a single diagonal wrap underneath the hook there. And the reason I'm doing that is, or actually I'm going to do it on the top. The reason I'm doing that is you don't have to do full X-wraps, but you still get, pretty thorough coverage over the top of those eyes. Because obviously this is a pretty small hook to have eyes this big, and granted they're bead chains, so they don't sink very fast, but if I did full X-wraps all over the eyes, as you often see, that would just be too bulky. But anyway, yellow, chartreuse, pale olive. I generally am going to tie this in something I can see, though, because I'm usually sight fishing at the time, and so I want to see that when the fish comes up and grabs the fly. My hackle is going to just be black, and I want it a little oversized here. It was maybe a little too oversized on the sample fly there, but that one's a pretty thick stem. If I had a thinner stem on that feather, I'd tie it by the other end, or I'd tie it by the base here. That's a thick enough stem on that one that I'm going to actually clip it off here at the tip and tie it in by the tip. And that's usually my determining factor. You know, if it's a really thick stem, I'll usually tie it in by the tip, and if it's a thin stem, I'll tie it in by the base. In fact, the sample fly, I tied it in by the base because that feather happened to have a thinner stem. But I do want this fairly sparse. I'm only going to make 2 wraps here. Looks like that's all I'm making anyway with this feather. You know, I could even have left it at 1 on that feather. That feather turned out a little bit more bulky than the last one I did. But I want that stuff long enough. The key thing here is I want that long enough to stick out beyond the bend of the hook there. And as that falls head first, you know, with these bead chain eyes, or if I twitch the rod tip, it's gonna, these things are gonna collapse and then expand, collapse, expand, depending on how it's moving. And you know, very fine motion is important for you know, fishing things on the drop, like I'm talking about doing with this. But anyway, there it is. That's a simple, I don't really have a name for that fly, but it's the sort of thing I like to fish for bluegill. Just kind of a simple bluegill spider with some eyes on it. And I'll get some, you know, 9-10 inch bluegill in eastern Montana on that here in a couple weeks when I head east. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.